Okay. One question you might well, should you go to the north of China or should you go to the south of China? I've lived in both places and I have some real opinions about it. Um, and so that's what this video is about. This video is about, all right, what are the benefits of the north and what are the benefits of the south? Or perhaps I should just say why the south is better. Um, Now, in a moment, I'll go into the fact that you may have particular reasons for going to the north. All right, there are some of those which would lead you to go there, and it's not the end of the world. It's fine if you don't mind pollution. Now, there are a few exceptional cities in the north of China that have very little pollution. For example, Dalian, and I spent 6 weeks in Dalian. But that's neither here nor there just yet. I'll go into that in a moment. Now, um, the first benefit the South has is there's less pollution, and that has to do in part with the nature of the industries that predominate in the North versus the South. The ones that are in the North, there are many more coal mines, for example. Although China is a coal importer, they over the last 20 years they use so much gosh darn coal. Uh, and I've heard that from many different. It's just a fact. It's an economic fact. So the industries that are up there, the factories, tend to produce far more uh, smog and carbon gases, etc. And during the winter, because it gets colder, there are still lots of families that actually burn coal for heat, especially if you go outside the city center. So in the city center, you still also have all the pollution from the cars, but you have pollution creating factories and the people you use it. I mean, really, it's worse. It's far worse. I, in 2012, no, 2013, I left Beijing, and I can tell you that in Beijing, the winters are dark. You cannot see, even when there are no clouds. Oftentimes, you still cannot see any sun simply because of the pollution. I don't recommend it. Okay, I really don't. So now another is the temperature. It is obviously colder in the north. If you don't mind that, that's great. I love warm weather. There is more sunshine in the south, despite the fact that you'll get rains because it's a subtropical climate. I'm here in Shenzhen. Uh, you may get rains for an hour, really heavy rains that keeps, but then it's gone, and you have sunshine and it's warm. It's terrific. Also, um, so if you like warm weather, you should definitely head towards the south. Now in Shenzhen, another benefit of the coastal Guangdong region and also into Fujian province is we're near the sea. Shenzhen is near the sea, so you get this fresh air that comes in off the sea that no matter what you do, no matter how many factories you have, you're still going to get that fresh air coming in from the sea. Beijing does not have that. Many of those northern cities don't have that. Even Tianjin, which is near Beijing, it's a very polluted city, even though it's still near the sea. Less so than Beijing, I think. I'm not sure on that. But at any rate, now another consideration when considering the North and the South is the culture. Okay, the culture in the South is slightly different. I would define the South, and most Chinese do as well, is there's a river that goes from Shanghai through to Sichuan province. In Chinese, it's called the Changjiang, okay? The Yangtze River and south. So essentially, it's Shanghai and then cut a line across the country and south. That's considered the South once you hit Shanghai. And from there downwards, number one, some Chinese, for example, complain, well, they only care about money or they care too much about money. Okay, there's a good and bad to that. The good aspect is that they really don't care as much about you being a foreigner. Okay, that's not as big a deal as it is in the north. Okay, really, essentially, it's like, well, what what kind of deal can I strike with you? Okay, what how do you add to my pocketbook or just my family's pocketbook? And they're not going out of their way to protect any sort of Chinese identity or Chinese culture or something like that. They're although they do have their own Chinese culture in the South now, which of course has been drastically affected by the systems. I'm not going to get into the systems, the system of government, etc. Um, but so in the North, I noticed that sometimes, whether it's on a subway or somewhere else, immediately my status or identity as a foreigner enters into the dialogue. That, well, you're a foreigner, so, well, we do it this way, so you need to do it some special way. That we have a special policy for you, or I mean, it gets rather irritating at sometimes. And there's also there's more hostility among certain groups in the North towards foreigners. Now, of course, there are also many who just worship us, that think that, well, anything we say must be right. Um, and in the North, there are some Chinese men that view us as being, um, sort of the enemy. And it's not just because we look one way or we're wearing a goatee or some. No, no, it's just the way they think. Um, and okay, another difference is in the North they tend to be kind of large. Chinese people tend to be kind of larger, taller, huskier. Um, and if you are of slight build, I'm 6'1", I'm a strong guy, I'm tall, pretty strong, or strong enough, at least here in China. People don't kind of, that sort of bullying or sort of the intimations, the subtle, you can see it in people's facial expressions, their body language, sort of trying to intimidate you physically. In the North, if you're a guy who's smaller or you're not that big, Chinese guys probably may just try to bully you a little bit. Um, that that has been reported by a number of different people, and speaking from my own experience, you will sense that there. Okay, that's a little different than in the South, where that is almost unheard of. There's almost no strong arm tactics as such in the South. All right, that's not the way they operate. Now, another thing in Shenzhen, amongst Chinese, it is well known and accepted that within the Shenzhen government, there's less corruption. Okay, and that's a good thing. The government here and the Chinese people themselves will tell you about that. First of all, Shenzhen is a city filled with Chinese people from all over China. So there isn't this hometown, there's less of a hometown mentality. Okay, sort of the old boys network. The government here, as opposed, at least in Shenzhen, relatively speaking, as compared to other jurisdictions, other political jurisdictions, be they at the city level, the provincial level, towards the north, there's more corruption, and there also is in the south. But I just want to let this, perhaps, is more focused just on Shenzhen. Um, this discussion of corruption in government. Generally, the government in Shenzhen, their idea is, relatively speaking, to facilitate business, get out of the way of business, instead of being a complete and total leech on business. Okay, they let enterprise move forward. There's much more freedom of thought. There's much more. You won't hear in Shenzhen about Christian churches having the crosses on their churches knocked off. Okay, now this has happened as you go north. Okay, it's just awful. But in Shenzhen, it's much more open-minded. It's much more forward-thinking. You have Tencent. I don't know if you've heard of WeChat. Their largest, most powerful technology company. It's more powerful than Baidu now. I mean, it's really the influence of Tencent. Wow. They have 600 million users right now. It is just insane. This is a technology city. It's an export oriented manufacturing city. It's a city, I mean, this as compared to other parts of China. They are looking outward. There are so many people in foreign trade. So many people here want to travel. So when I walk into an English school in my, and I'm walking through the neighborhood towards my English school, and I've got my long sleeve button down shirt, my slacks, my nice shoes. Everybody looks at me as though I represent new business deals, increasing wages, better salaries, higher standards of living, openness. It means a positive impact on people's livelihoods. But there are many parts of the north, and there are many people including in Beijing, and Beijing is still 50% all local Beijingers, right? They're really into politics. They're hyper controlling. Now that still exists here in Shenzhen too, but not to the extent that it does there. um, so all of that affects the quality of your life. When I walk down the street in almost all parts of Shenzhen, if you go into the suburbs, all right, you'll catch people kind of looking at you a little bit, especially the new arrivals, right? The new migrant workers, the young ones. Some of them, they've just got their new factory job or whatever, and they're kind of, wow, what's this? But they're much more. So I think you get the idea there. Another benefit to living down here, you can jump across the border to Hong Kong if you want sort of a break back into the Western world, um, and you want to uh, eat some really Western food. You can do that there. You want to go to bookstores where nothing's censored. You want to read newspapers that are not censored. Um, you want to get a visa to another country, any country in the world, essentially, Hong Kong. You want to fly somewhere. You want to take a vacation to Thailand. You want to go to Vietnam. Bam, you're on a plane and you're there, and it's all very cheap from Hong Kong. Um, the internet is lightning fast in Hong Kong. Oh, also, changing visas. Now, I'm about to make another video on visas because, as I understand it, they are making some visa changes. So this is very important, and you need to look at my previous video on getting your Hong Kong visa. You need to be careful right now because although just recently, just last year, I had friends who were on a business visa and went to Hong Kong and changed. Right now, it is unclear whether they're going to still allow that. So subscribe to my channel and you'll get notice when I upload a video that deals with that, okay? Because I've seen some YouTube channels where there are tons of subscribers, but the person giving advice really is not in the know. I mean, their advice is not that good. It's not that specific, and some of their advice is wrong. Okay, and also you need to understand that there are different visa policies for different countries. All right. I've heard people say that, okay, well, now an American is going to have to get their degree apostolized. Okay, this is a word we don't use in American jurisprudence. Okay, within the context of American law, notaries don't go out and verify the authenticity of a document like a college degree. Okay, you won't get the embassy to do that. You get the embassy, they can notarize a document. Okay, I've done that a number of different times, but not in connection with my own visa application. Okay. And when they're notarizing something, they're just an official who says, yes, sure enough, this person appeared before me, they presented ID, and they are the person who made this signature, and then they put their stamp on it. Okay, they're affirming the fact that someone came to them and signed this legal document. All right, so you could make a sworn statement in front of a consular officer and notarize it. That's fine, but it doesn't mean you're not apostolizing it. You're not performing a notary, nor are you performing a notary function, as that is understood within the context of these what are called civil legal systems. And I don't mean criminal versus civil. I mean, for example, in China has a civil law system. The French have a civil law system, and their notaries go out and try to determine whether a particular document is what it purports to be. If this is a birth certificate, a Chinese notary will go out and check the register and will try to determine, yeah, sure enough, this is correct. And they will try to almost testify to some extent as to the truthfulness of what is in this document and what this document purports to be, okay? Now, in the United States, I had one of the things I've done is I've translated hundreds of legal documents and helped Chinese people prepare immigration applications. So I know something about this, okay? And I mean that I had people relying on my knowledge of these processes, and and at any rate, I won't go into that any further. But so check back on the visas, okay? Check back on the visas. In the next month or two, I will have more information, and I'll be able to tell you, okay, can you go across and change from a business visa, a tourist visa, to a work visa? Just up until just recently, there was no problem with that, and everyone was doing it. So let's see if that continues on into the future. Okay. Okay. Another thing in the South, you may say, oh, well, they all speak Cantonese down there. Well, all Chinese people go to school and they learn Mandarin. All of this everywhere in China, grades 1 through 12. They grades 1 through 12. They their lessons are in Mandarin. Okay, so they all learn how to speak it. In the South, their pronunciation is kind of crappy sometimes. Sorry, but it is. Um, and yes, but so some people say, oh, well, they don't speak Mandarin in the South. No, at home and with their family in Guangdong province, most people in Guangdong will also speak Cantonese. Now, some of them will speak a local dialect like Hakka, Kejia, which is a local ethnic group within Guangdong province and a few other provinces. Most of them are in Guangdong province. They speak their own local dialect also, but they can also speak Mandarin because they learn it in school. Okay.